What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mint City Soccer Show. I'm Corey Ensko. We are back in the studio, virtual studio, for a full episode here with David Gussler. Hey, David.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Good. And Matt Swift. How you doing, Matt?
Hello.
I promise I was not playing favorites. It's just that's the order you were in my screen. So
no, it's okay.
And,
you can say
and
favorites.
Alphabetically, both first name and last name alphabetically. It's just how it goes. That's the way we're playing. So it's been a minute. So how have y'all been doing? We didn't have any soccer this past weekend. We had some before that we can talk about. We have some coming up this weekend. But yeah, how are y'all feeling?
Good, man. Let's not talk about the soccer that we had before the weekend before that. That'd be great. So no, good. Officially moved into the new office, so feeling great. Feel like I can do a podcast again. I'm not sitting on the floor recording into my phone, which is good.
Oh yeah,
so
that is good. That is good. Everybody appreciates that, including your editor.
I'm sure.
But yeah, anybody watching on YouTube, you can see David's nice new setup that apparently includes a beer fridge because he went and grabbed one real quick before we started recording. So that was really nice. What are you drinking?
Good.
Yeah,
Thanks, man. I'm drinking Wicked Weed Brewing Festbia. So got into the fall stuff already.
'Tis the season.
Yes, it's very good.
Matt, how you feeling about things?
Pretty good. It's good to be back and talking about soccer. I've missed the past 2 games, and we didn't win, so there's probably some correlation there. But been at the beach on vacation. But yeah, it's nice to be back with you guys and talking about some Charlotte FC.
So selfish.
I know. You can never take a beach vacation again.
It's clearly squeaky bum time, and you're taking a beach vacation. And I don't know.
Think of someone else for once, Swift. That's all I have to say.
I know. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry I let you down.
All right. Since it's been a minute and there's a lot to talk about, we're actually going to do this episode a little bit differently than how we typically do them, which is we're going to start with our listener questions, which is usually how we finish the show. Honestly, depending on how this conversation goes, it might be the whole show. And then if there's anything else that we don't talk about in this slew of questions, we'll tag it on at the end. But we put the call for questions. We got a whole bunch of them. So I think we're just going to ratchet through these and talk about kind of everything that has happened over the past few weeks since we've done a full episode. And as we're getting into the real final part of the season here. So y'all good with that?
Yeah, I think we need to officially call this Squeaky Bum time, just like you said earlier. That's the name of the episode too.
Isn't that the phrase? I pulled it off the top of my head. I was like, I think that's the right phrase, but if I say the wrong phrase, it's going to sound real weird. It's already a weird phrase.
I'm glazing over that title name. Just go ahead and just do it.
No, there it is. There it is. It's already started. All right. I haven't put these in an order that makes sense. So I might try to do that as we're going along. I'm just going to pull up the first one that I see here. And that is from David Kelly. David asks, how long do you give the team to integrate the 3 to 4 new teammates into the starting squad before you begin to worry that they are not a good fit? I'll start with Matt this time, so I don't play favorites.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that.
Very, hold on. Before you even dive into this, Swift, that's very like debate-esque, which is appropriate for tonight going on.
It's a very dad thing to do. Very dad thing to do with multiple kids. I don't have favorites.
Sorry, go ahead, Swift. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good question. It's going to take a few games, I think. We could talk about Tim Ream. I think there's a question about him specifically. But for me, you've got to give these guys a couple of games. There's been a little bit of a break. They've had time to practice with each other, but it's different playing in a game. So yeah, just going to need a bigger sample size. Want to see how they play on the road, different against different teams, and just see how Dean's going to kind of utilize some of these guys. So yeah, just going to need a few more games before I kind of make a determination either way.
Yeah.
So I agree somewhat, Swift. I would say for the most part, most of the players, I usually give it a month or two to see and make sure. So I mean, like what, 6-8 games esque, kind of see there. Unfortunately, I would say you have to kind of grade on a curve for Pep a little bit because his loan is only for December, right? So you have to quickly figure out if that's the right fit or not for him. And I think Zoran, when we had him on the show, feels like forever ago, but like a month ago, he said that there's plenty of time for us to evaluate if he's going to work out or not. So I think the professionals can figure it out, but for us as fans, I know we get antsy after a month or so, being like, is it working out or not?
After one game,
That's
yeah.
very true. That's very
generous.
true.
Let's be honest.
As a Panther fan, I agree with that. It takes one game. That's all I needed.
Ooh,
Oh my
don't
God,
even.
So horrible. Sunday, man. Sunday was the worst.
It's bad. It's bad.
I've never considered starting a Panthers podcast, but I was extra happy I don't have a Panthers podcast after that game.
Yes, very much so.
Oh man. Since you mentioned it, let's jump ahead to the question about Tim Ream. So Harley asks, is Ream an improvement over Privet? I thought Ream was a backup to Privet, not a replacement, which is something some of us kind of talked about. We got a little bit of a debate about that several episodes back before it was officially was coming. But anyway, I'll continue the question from Harley. I don't see why we disrupted the back line when it was already doing great. So, Reem, what's your thoughts? And this is a biased question. I'm going to throw it to David first.
So say don't play favorites here, Corey. No, I know we were going back and forth. I was excited for him to be starting. I still am excited for him to be starting, to be honest with you. First time ever getting a U.S. men's national team player on the team to be able to play and start. Played in the English Premier League as little as 4 months ago, like being able to start and play. So I still think there's plenty of time. I still think he is going to work out. I still don't think that, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but I don't think Ream or the defense has been the problem the last few games. I think they've let in 2 goals, if that, give or take a little bit. To me, that's not the issue that we have right now. The issue is scoring. Like, we can't tend to buy a goal that's not a PK, and that's the real issue. So for me, I would say Ream currently September 10th, 2024. Is he an improvement over Privet? Yes. I would say long-term Privet is the answer and the goal for that. And hopefully by the team, that's why they extended him as well. Right. The answer to the last question where it says I don't see why we disrupt the back line. Well, anytime you get a English Premier League player, a men's national team player, quality type signing, you're going to get them into the lineup. It's not like you're just signing them to come right the bench. You know what I mean? So, think Christian Fuchs, when we signed him last year, or the very beginning of the first year, he started pretty consistently and then he faded off and started coming in as a sub or super sub, whatever it is. You don't sign those caliber players just for them to ride the bench.
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple of times on the show, and my first thought was that I didn't want to disrupt the back line. And this is before we signed Tim, if you remember.
Yep.
I was like, I don't know that I want to, because it was working. But, as we were getting ready to sign him, you start thinking about all the things that, Gussler said, who he played for, what league he was in, the veteran that he is. He's on the U.S. men's national team. He has that nice left foot. And how Dean wants to play. We talked to Zoran about that. Is that going to be a benefit? It's only been 2 games, though, and we just talked about need a bigger sample size. So I don't know how I feel yet about it. I hated to change it, but I want to give Tim the benefit of the doubt. We've given up 2 goals. They've been at home. If we would have won those games, would anybody care? I don't know. He's not starting tonight, and the U.S. is keeping a clean sheet. But anyway, so they... Yeah, he didn't play well.
Who are they playing tonight?
New Zealand, and I hear that.
That's fine.
I think Pulisic may have scored on Bill Tuiluma.
Oh,
I think.
Nice.
Speaking of another, trying to get some updates here. Maybe not.
But
trying to look at my phone real quick. They're in the 89th minute, I think, right now. But anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to need a couple more games to see. But I think to your point, short term, Tim is the starter. He's the veteran. Andrew's going to be able to learn under him. Andrew's very young. He's got time to grow back and be a starter. And who knows? They're going to push each other for that position, and that's always a good thing. So you never know what's going to happen down the stretch. You don't know injury wise. something could happen there. I mean, you just never know, but you need to be prepared and you need depth, and it's kind of a good, I guess, problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was on the record saying when we talked about this last time is that, like, I don't understand how you bring someone like Tim Ream in and don't start him. Like,
Yep.
like he's not a depth piece or not a bench depth piece. You bring him in to put other people on the bench that probably, are a little younger, a little less experienced to be that backup and keep learning. So I mean, yeah, it's 2 games. I know it's tough to, when you have a center back pairing that's working so well, you don't want to mess with it, but I think it was the right move to start him. And to y'all's point, yeah, have there been some mistakes at the back that's led in a couple of goals here? Sure, but we also cannot score, and I think that's the bigger issue. Is if we got some goals, this would be a very different conversation to have. So,
Yep.
So yeah,
New Zealand literally just scored on the U.S. By the way, just now.
Oh,
So it's 1-1.
that's a whole
doesn't
other
matter.
conversation to have.
Forget the whole Tim Ream angle about.
if only Tim Ream was starting, then they wouldn't have had.
There you
that
go.
happen.
If he was starting, yeah. So, yeah.
The only thing that
I
would make
think
it better
it's-
is if Tui Loma scored the goal. That would have made it even better.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Somehow, like on or off a corner. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it is. I mean, I've seen some people kind of have some like harsh reactions already, like 2 games in, and be like, "Oh my god, like this is a terrible sign." And it is way too early to say that.
Yeah.
And again, yes, you're gonna get scored on. We still I think lead the league in clean sheets at this point of the season, or if not leading the league, like we're first or second or third. Like we've had a very solid defense and still have a very solid defense. You're gonna get scored on. It's gonna happen. So I just don't think saying Tim's the problem is not that's not true yet. So
yeah. All right, I'm going to stick with there's kind of a bunch of roster questions. I'm just going to stick with those and skip around a little bit. So, good friend of the show, Russell Varner, asks, whatever happened to Gianni? Or Gianni, that's right, isn't it? When will we see him back in the starting 11? Will we see him? All caps. Will we see him back in the starting 11? Matt.
Yeah, I think situational, depending on who we're playing, is how Dean's looks like he's moving some pieces around in the middle. He kind of persists with Brant. Brant keeps we've talked about this, every single coach. You think he's going to be dropped, he comes back in, even when Brant has a bad game and Gianni comes back in. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in training, and that could maybe dictate some of this. But again, I think it might just be who we're playing and how Dean wants to utilize Gianni, maybe coming off the bench or something like that. But I think we'll see him start a game here and there. It could be this game, depending on how we want to play, which I think I know how we're going to play, and we'll talk about that later. So you actually might see him this weekend. Yeah, I don't have any concerns there so far. Again, I think with these new players, we might see some shakeup and some of these pieces might fall more into place.
Yeah, I think not to belabor the point, but yeah, I agree. I don't think nothing's quote unquote happened to him. I think it's just depending on who we play. Dean trying to figure out what the best combination is. Brent was playing as our our attacking mid for the longest time, and then now trying to figure out what happens to Brant now, what happens to Gianni, what happens to everybody else now that you've got Pep coming in, now that you've got Abada healthy, you've got Carroll here now. Trying to figure out. I mean, we haven't even talked about Patterson yet, right? So where does all these players fit? And I think, hate to say it, but that bye kind of helped us out last week, or that international break is going to, I think, help get some extra practice there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump around to Brian Duncan. What are your thoughts on Vargas? He still seems so hot and cold. David?
I mean, that right there.
Let's say
I think that's the perfect way. I mean, he's still young, and please don't take this as me saying like he's a bad player or anything like that. It's just that he's young, he's inconsistent. When he is hot, think about how he ended the season last year. He is good, like good, consistent starter when he's hot. When he is cold, man, it is what the hell are you doing type play, right? And it's a young player going to see that. That's, I think, some of the growing pains. Team obviously feels confident enough. They extended him this past few months ago. So I don't have any concerns there. I do think he needs to change it up a little bit from that position. I mean, you've got Abada there that's solidified right wing. You've got Carroll and Pat up top. You've got Pep in the middle now. You need to figure out something and get consistent play out of that left wing to be able to get more attacking chances and consistent chances. So hopefully, maybe we'll talk about later, Swift. But Patterson coming in, I think that's important.
Yeah, that's going to push Vargas. They need someone. And I think the point of the window and maybe possibly some future moves is to push Vargas. He needs a push. He needs someone behind him that could take his spot if he's not playing well. And I think that's what he needs. Sometimes I feel like he gets a little too comfortable, a little, I hate to say the word lazy, but sometimes it looks a little bit like that, especially getting back on defense. And just sometimes when he gets the ball, he seems like he's just out of ideas, or he's going to do 10 step overs, which he really needs to work on because that's just driving me nuts. But like you were saying, when he's good, and really good. And a lot of wingers are flashy like that, and they're going to have and they're streaky. So that kind of comes with the territory. But when he's bad, he's really, really bad. And that's when Dean's going to have to start maybe pulling the trigger a little early. And I think these moves help with that. Maybe before he didn't feel comfortable pulling him. Maybe at halftime, if he's having a horrible game, halftime you're out, and that starts, gets Vargas thinking like, "Hey, I'm replaceable now." Because like at this point, I don't think he really has been.
Right.
But now with these new additions, like that's gonna push him. So again, a good problem to have. But I think he needs to just be more consistent.
Yeah, I mean, think about what the depth was last year at this time on the wing. I mean, who was going to replace him, Gaines or Uzviak?
Yeah.
I mean, he was comfortable for sure.
All right. Let's see. I feel like we have some other player questions. Yeah, we have two about surprise. We have two about Swiderski. All right. So first from Bill, I'm going to say Ahuron. Ahuron.
I thought you said Aaron. Aaron.
No, there's an H in there. Sorry, Bill. Hopefully one of those is right. What do you think about playing time at the 9? Should Pat get more time? Does Carroll just need more time to gel with the players around him? And actually, I'm going to flash up this second question too. We can kind of talk about both. We're basically just talking about the 9 and Carroll situation. So also from Matt Livingston, how can we get Swiderski back to form and ultimately score more goals as a team? So overall thoughts on the 9, Pat playing time. How do we get Swiderski back into form? All that jazz, all wrapped up together. I can't remember who I started with last time. So who wants to jump in?
Swift, I'll let you go first. You're thinking very intently about Swiderski. So I think we can spend the next 30 minutes talking about Swiderski. It's great.
Yeah.
So if you remember, I asked Zoran how he thought Dean would play with these new additions. And I think that's going to really tell us what if Swiderski has a future here. What's happening is how we've been playing is a lot of balls over the top where the forward has to run on, muscle people off, make a play. That's more in Pat's, I feel like, wheelhouse. What needs to happen with Swiderski needs to get the ball at the top of the box. He needs to get a good pass in. He needs to be in some space to get a shot off because Swiderski can shoot the ball really, really well. That's what he needs. Pat and Swiderski are two different types of players. So just kind of really depends on how we're trying to play. With the addition of Pep, are we going to play it like, remember I asked one, are we going to play more through the channels? Are we going to play more through the middle? Or is it going to still be this kind of like long ball out of the back? Is it going to be, fast breaks, counterattacks, things like that? But again, I still think Swiderski needs a little more time with the new folks. I know this is a very hot topic. They either really love Swiderski or they absolutely can't stand him. But I still think he needs a couple more games. I still think, this these next few matches are going to be very telling. But I would like to see Swiderski be the starter if we can work more through the middle and through the channels, which that's how I want to play anyway. And then in the second half, that's when you could switch it up and start, when everybody's tired, start playing balls over the top to Pat. That's the kind of the dynamic that I'm wanting out of this team.
So, like, at what point, and I'm gonna pretense this, I was really happy to bring Carroll back because I think it added weapons to to a team that had really not many weapons that were at least consistent, at least, right? We had a very, very elite and good level defense for the first half of the year, and we just couldn't score goals, right? And or at least on a consistent clip. And then Swiderski comes in and obviously scores some PKs here and there. Always been very good at that. I something's not clicking there, and I'm not really sure what it is, and it could be getting acclimated. I mean, he had what I think Austin was the first. Was Austin the first game he was back with us? I think it was, wasn't it? Austin, and then we had pretty decent break there, and then you had because of All Star and all that stuff, and then comes back, and it's been a few games since then. So he's had plenty of time of practicing. And I know Zoran was on here and he said, hey, like Karen Abada linking up like during practice
Yeah.
and, scrimmages.
Yeah.
It's been really great to see. I'm really excited to see that duo. We've got Pep now here. This will be like week 4 that Pep's been here now, game 3 that he's been. So plenty of time now to practice and get started getting acclimated a little bit with some of these guys. So like for me, that I think the pressure is on. Hopefully, Carroll's not feeling it where he's like, if he does want to go back to Europe, he needed to make sure he had a really good window here, and I'm not sure that window is working out so far in his favor. Still plenty of time for it to work out.
That's right.
But the past month or two has not been someone that signals this guy needs to go to Serie A again, or go to Bundesliga, or go to Premier League or whatever it is, right? Not yet, at least. But he's got the potential to. But I'm just not seeing it quite yet. I know he can. I just and not to go down tactics or anything like that, but the things that just frustrate me a little bit with Carroll is that, and I will say, if you look at Carroll now from 3 years ago when we first got him, it's night and day. Like he's not throwing temper tantrums a little bit as much as he was when he first signed here and everything like that. Is a little bit more approachable, I would say, which is good. The only thing that I would just say is like that transit. We've gotten beat, I think, twice now, where he has the ball at the top of the box and he's trying to make something out of nothing, and just gets tackled or whatever it is and loses the ball. And all of a sudden, the team's on a break, and then they're just on a counter, and we get scored on or have a high chance against us, whatever it is. We just need to stop that from happening.
I think that's because of our spacing.
Yeah.
I think that's and it works both ways. I think it works both ways. The reason why Swiderski's not getting a lot of balls to his feet and getting chances, or he's getting a chance and he's closed down immediately, is because there's too much of a gap between our center attacking midfielder and him, right? Or we're trying to play that ball over the top, which is not his game. So that's the problem. And then to your point, when he's losing the ball, there's still a gap. Our team is compact in the back and kind of where Westwood is. After Westwood going forward, that's when the spacing's not working for me. That's when we're not moving well as a team. We're supposed to be kind of like this counter-attacking team, and we do good to a certain point, but we're not playing through the final third correctly. Our space is not correct in the final third. And I think that leads to a lot of like scoring, or the lack of scoring opportunities. And then that, getting dispossessed, and then the team's going the other way on us. So I think that center attacking midfield is the problem. And we've talked about this the whole time. It's like the spacing there. Like we've had Brandt play that, but he's more of a defensive player, so he's not used to being I feel like in the right spot. So we've just had this consistent problem with it. But I think if we solve that, it solves kind of both things that you're talking about.
So is that because, and just think about the type of player, right? And I think this all goes back to Dean needs to figure out what he wants out of this number 9, right? With Pat, he is much more, I'm going to make a run on the ball and kick it up there, hope and prayer, and I'm going to make something out of nothing, right? And so, but Carroll is not that, and he also tends to kind of hover outside the box a little bit more so. And is that just a communication and him kind of playing this, central forward type position and not a true number 9, and then he's getting into the space that Pep is supposed to be into, or what do you think the issue is there? Is it just his style of play or what?
I think both of them need to start playing off each other. I think that Swiderski needs to come back and track and collect the ball, and Pep needs to go forward and overlap. They need to start playing off of each other more, and that's going to throw off defenses, and that's going to pull defenders out of place, and that's going to leave room for our wingers too. But it's just really stagnant. It's very robotic going down the field, and it's very easy to defend. But once Swiderski and Pep start moving more and overlapping and start tricking defensive, that's when we're going to have some success. Right now, it's just so easy to defend because everything's like super stagnant. But Swiderski has to be mindful, like if we do get dispossessed and he and Pep's ahead of him, he's got to track back and play defense. So there's that too.
The one thing I've noticed with Pep, at least, and it's only been what, game and a half, if that.
Yeah.
It's he is not scared to attack the space, which I appreciate. Like he will make those runs, and I see the potential. He has the vision there. We were watching. God, who was it we played against before Atlanta? I'm just, it's been so long. But when I was there in the stadium,
Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull. Thank you. But when he got those minutes against Red Bull coming in that second half, he is making runs that we have not seen attacking mids make for us for quite a while. And that was refreshing to see, or ever. Yeah. and that was super refreshing. And it's just like, okay, like on paper, this is the best attacking roster we've ever had. And I just want it to click faster so that way we can score some goals and make a difference in our our standings, our points, whatever it is. Look at our attacking weapons now versus year one. It's crazy what we thought we were. Remember, we were like, we're going to host a playoff game with TT Ortiz and Alan Franco in the midfield, and sorry, just reminiscing.
Wild.
Yeah, a little. We were a little naive there. I never liked TT Ortiz. I will go to my grave saying that.
You were correct. You said that you could win a race against him, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Those are good times. Actually, I want to bring up this question that Keith Chitwood asked because it's related to what I think y'all were just talking about, and see if you want to expand on this anymore. Because this is the kind of thing that, as someone who's not as knowledgeable of tactics and things like that, when I'm looking at a match, this is the thing that I see the team do compared to how other teams play that drives me bananas. And so he's basically saying, this is not posted on the video part of the question, but he's saying it's speed of thought, speed of play, and trusting that if you put a ball where your teammate should be, the teammate will be here. And he's talking about kind of the slowness with which we seem to move the ball forward sometimes. And his question is, we seem to stop and either hold the ball in one place or go backward. Are the players in doubt as far as where to go with the ball, or are they just not good enough? And it probably is playing into a little bit of that spacing thing. But that's like the glaring thing that I see when I'm watching it, is like you see other teams and the ball is just moving. They're finding space. They're moving forward. They're finding those channels. And we so rarely seem to be able to do that going forward. And so, yeah, whatever, if you want to expand on that or any thoughts around kind of that piece of it.
You're right. It to me, it's spacing. And if, say, Vargas gets the ball and no one is moving, it stalls, right? And then what happens? What do? Play ball over the top, right? Or try to a hope and pray ball up forward, right? So and even when we get the ball in the midfield and we're trying to go on a break, like people are not entirely sure where our teammates are going to be. And again, it's so unbelievably stagnant. We do not move well off the ball. We are very compact in the back and coming out of the back, but after that, no one's moving. People are not tracking back to get to the ball. We're not overlapping. We're just very robotic. Some of that is we don't have the right personnel in certain key spots. Pep now is the addition, and we've already kind of seen the difference there. We talked about Gianni, someone like him against Montreal could be very beneficial, right? As we go on the break and everything like that, and his quality. So, you got to think about Brandt, who, again, no fault of his own, is more of a defensive minded person. You're asking him to be center attacking mid. And that's a lot of problem. He's not creative. That's not his game. So when we're going forward and Vargas or Abada have the ball, what run is Bronico making? Right? Now he's running around, he's going to get open, but like, is it beneficial? Does it stop the play? Does it halt things? Does it slow it down so the defense can get ahead of us? And that's kind of what has been happening, in my opinion. Yeah,
you talk about. I was going to ask, if you is it a coaching thing? Is it a player personnel thing? Is it some? My guess is it's the latter because it's happened under every single coach we've had, but I just didn't know.
I think it's a little bit of. I think it's a little bit of both. Like I said, I think now we're getting the right personnel. And again, I don't fault someone. I hate to keep saying Bronico because Bronico is one of my favorite players. I actually have his jersey on right now. But like him going, he's not an attacking player, but you've asked him to do that. So his tendencies are to be reserved, to make the easy pass, sideways, backwards, keep possession. Sometimes you need, if you're going to have a center attacking midfield, got to take some risk. Got to bomb down the field, get through the channels, take people on. And we just haven't had that. So with Pep, that brings us a kind of a different look. So hopefully this will kind of change some things.
Yeah. David, any thoughts from you?
As a huge tactician myself, no, I'm just joking. I agree with everything Matt said. I mean, you put it much more eloquently than I could have. But like when you're looking at spacing has been the biggest issue. You know what I mean? And I think I think having confidence too is a big thing because you got to be able to trust the players are going to be there and they're going to do the right things. Like I can't tell you how many times I've seen Vargas do the 20 million step overs or whatever it is. And then, Yuri's making a run from half line all the way up to the corner of the field. And he just makes this huge run and the ball stalls because he dribbles it into a player or shoots it over the field goal. Right. So it just, I think it is a confidence, spacing and creativity, etc. I think that's part of it. I think it's also just trusting and understanding what the system needs you to do. And that is coaching. Right. And I think Dean even said it early on that like he wants that film room to be that classroom. And I think that, remember, he's only been here now, 8 months?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's going to take, you don't magically just make headway instantly all the time. I mean, defense, we've seen it, but now
he did in the defensive part.
He did the defense, right? Yeah. But I think we've always had the pieces defensively. It just that was truly just some basic coaching, right? The attacking side.
That's a really good point, David. And Zoran even said that. Like he didn't try to throw the other two coaches under the bus, but he was like, we have the same pieces.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we've had the pieces defensively, and I think even looking at center defensive mid with Ashley and defensively and Kalina, we've always had the pieces there, at least halfway through the first year, to be a very good defense. That was just coaching. We've never really had the attacking weapons we have now, and that is now where Dean and whoever's in charge of attacking or attacking players have to coach that differently now.
All right. Well, that's a good spot to take a real quick break to hear a word from our sponsor. David, listeners, this episode is brought to you by the top team in men's grooming. And that is, of course, Manscaped. This season, whether you're watching the Premier League, whether you're watching our beloved Charlotte FC, whether you're watching whatever league it is you enjoy watching, don't just watch the best, be the best with the ultimate grooming tools. With the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0, keep your balls smooth and ready for play. Because whether it's football or anything else, you don't want to be caught with a rough touch. I just have to say that last time we did an ad read, we made a point to say, look, we're not going to make balls jokes. We really got to make up for it this time. We can't go too many ad reads without making the balls reference. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code CORNDOG, one word, for 20% off and free shipping.
Corey, so ever since I've used Manscaped, I can proudly say that I am playing in the top tier level, so the English Premier League level of grooming.
Don't you mean MLS is the top league, right? I think that's what we are.
True. That's
Yeah.
I do for myself. It's probably more like USL like 3. So no, but no more overgrown grass. Just smooth, well manicured turf is what you see here in this space. So meet your new marquee signing this season, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's like having the best groundskeeper in the league, but with your own personal pitch involved, which is great. It'd be great if you had your own groundskeeper, right? The trimmer comes with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, 1 for precision trimming, and a new foil blade for a smooth finish wherever you need it most. So keep your pitch perfectly smooth, just like Wembley on Cup final day. So
I mean, that's always what I thought I wanted is really for it to look like Wembley. I mean, when I watch a match at Wembley, I think, man, what if?
What if?
But now it's possible.
The last thing I'll share on this is that the compact case makes it an ideal companion. It's ready for an away day. So for us going on traveling for soccer matches, I know there's a DC away day coming up here pretty soon. It'll be perfect for that, just in case you need to have those last minute grooms. But that way you'll be ready and your match day ready wherever you go. So Corey, where can these folks get this great product?
Well, before we get there, we skipped a very important part, which is that the waterproof wonder, this thing is waterproof, is ready for anything, even a cold, wet night in Stoke.
Stoke.
Groom wherever you need to, be at the locker room, the shower, even the boss's office. That's a weird flex if you're doing that, but I mean, if that's your thing, or even in the stands in Stoke, watching the Potters as you do. So yeah, if you want to get this and get your turf Wembley ready, match ready, head over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code CORNDOG to get 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code CORNDOG at manscaped.com. All right, we are back. Let's get through the second half of these wonderful listener questions. Thanks everybody for sending these in, by the way. Like, this was really nice to kind of have, we basically like didn't have to make an outline for the show because I was like, oh, we just got a bunch of good questions. We're just gonna riff through these for an hour and see what happens. So we'll stick with, there's a couple more about players that I'm gonna stick with, but kind of more looking at some contract and roster move type situations. So the first one from El Profesor. Bender just went out on loan, but we kept his option for next year. Do you see any other players that we might send out like this? And he mentions Marks, Smalls, Cambridge. Do we sell them? Do we keep them with legacy? What about some of those players who maybe are on the bottom end of the depth chart there?
I'll let you go first, Swift.
Yeah, there will probably be another player announced soon that's going out on loan, and it might be one of the players that was mentioned in this question. And I'll leave it with that.
Did you say Abada? No, I'm just joking. No.
But one of the things with Bender, it's funny. We had that conversation about where would Bender fit in, and then there was kind of like this like resurgence. We're like, oh, okay, he's going to fit right back in, and he might be starting because everybody was playing kind of horrible. And again, we just have not been able to figure out that midfield. But with the additions that we have, I think Brandon kind of coming back in and being healthy now, like this, Bender is the odd man out. So he's going to get some playing time there, and we'll see kind of where we are next year. But I mean, I think Ben is going to have to step up and reach another level. And we had like a pretty good conversation in Slack about Bender, about being a super draft pick. And I think people need to realize that this is not kind of like the NFL, right? Most super draft picks do not get playing time at all in the first season. So I think we were a little not spoiled, but like it was kind of a surprise that Ben not only played, but he played a lot, and was kind of like one of our quote unquote best players, right? He's certainly a lot of people like him as a player and as a person and everything too. But yeah, that's not the norm. So I think he's probably where he needs to be. And honestly, if we would have maybe had better personnel, he probably would have went on loan last year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So you're saying that he's not everyone's like Bryce Young when they come out first thing, number 1 overall pick. No, I'm joking. Sorry.
Yeah, there were moments Sunday where I'm like,
stop bringing up Panther stuff.
I'm a better quarterback than Bryce Young. I'm sorry, like
Sorry.
just some of the throws. I'm just like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Never
Sorry,
have I been so happy that I had a birthday lunch to attend on the opening Sunday of the NFL season, because I didn't watch it. I was planning to go home and like watch the second half, and then I looked at the score and I was like, nope.
Nope.
Not watching that.
I'm an App State fan. I went to Appalachian
Oh
State.
yeah. Yeah, that was
I
rough.
am a Panthers fan, and then we are a Cleveland Browns household as well too. My wife's from Cleveland, and so Sunday was god awful. The whole weekend, sports wise, was just
a lot of pain.
There was just no Charlotte FC, no Arsenal, and then it was just like App State played one of the worst games I've ever seen them play, and then Panthers too. Like, it's just Jesus Christ.
Stop going to the beach, man. That's what it comes down to. Just stop going to the beach. No, so sorry to circle back to the Ben Benders instead of me derailing it with Bryce Young talk. So that's for a different show. No, I think like you said he's where he's at. It's interesting that we did extend his option, but I guess they did that because to me this signals they are going to try to move him. This is me just speculating. I have no idea, because if you're going to send him on a loan, you're going to want to keep him at least for a little bit, because you don't want to send him on a loan and then his contract expire and be like, well, can't get rid of him now. So to me, like you said, we were spoiled. I think Ben's a decent player at times, but he's not the complete package to be a full-time starter right this second. Maybe he gets that time in USL, and he's with Tampa Bay Rowdies, right? So maybe he gets more minutes and he gets more time and be consistent from there. The times that he played for Legacy, I think that was he's like in this weird moment where he's too good to be on Legacy, but then like not good enough to be starting at Charlotte FC. So that's where I think maybe the Rowdies and USL could kind of fill that void for him a little bit, where it's a little bit of a step up per se, or hopefully it's a step up for him. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens 12 months from now, or even 8 months from now for Ben Bender, to be honest.
Yeah, he has to progress to have a shot, in my eyes, to be a legit starter for Charlotte FC. I think for me personally, we're in kind of bad shape if he's our starter on the field, considering who we have and who we can bring in. I think we're past that now. We are evolving as a franchise. So, and that's part of it. And you're going to see some more players that kind of get left in the dust a little bit, and it's sad, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I think it's sad because of by necessity, these players had to be very large pieces of the lineup for the first 2 years.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we would be like, oh yeah, I recognize that name. I remember seeing him on the bench, because like that's the caliber player. It's
right.
As we've gotten to where we needed to be.
Yep.
They don't really have a spot anymore, but because of the cobbled together with duct tape lineups we had to put together sometimes in the first 2 years, we got to love some of these players, and they're great players and people too. Like, I'm not trying to knock them, but yeah, it's
Sure.
right now they are better suited playing maybe next pro, maybe USL, whatever it makes sense to kind of keep developing.
Yeah.
So, all right. One more player related question from Matt Chantry. How happy are you about the Westy extension?
So I was going to use my Gen Z saying that I spoiled in the first 2 seconds of the show, but I can't use it again now. So, but I'm over the moon with having Westwood extended. So I think he's definitely enjoyed his time here. I think you see that with him extending with us. Spends consistent starter for us, captain of the team, been out in the community, loves Charlotte. I think he's also been helping try to recruit some of our players over to our team from England and other places. So I think he's a good, steward of the team and the brand. So I'm ecstatic about it. Even if it's 2 years down the road and he's kind of fading into that kind of like, bench kind of captain kind of role from that perspective, or, player coach, great. It's totally fine. We've got people that are able to go and fill into that hopefully long term, but I'm excited about it.
I think Westwood's going to be and is already starting to be kind of our franchise player. Someone like kind of think of like a franchise player, like an all-star player, or the captain, and he's our captain. A lot of people I think kind of look at Brant Bronico as like the quintessential Charlotte FC guy, but I think Westwood's going to be that guy. If Fuchs would have played a couple more seasons, I think he would have been that guy. But just playing the one, I think Westwood's now that going to be that person. He's the captain. And also he's playing well and he's starting. It's not like he's just out there hobbling around and just going through the paces. He's one of our best players, right? So it's great that he's signing this. I know that he loves Charlotte, and I think his family's doing really well here and they love it. So that's really good to see. So I'm really tickled. Matt Chantry asked this question. I know he's super pumped because he gets to keep his Westwood T Gang Twitter handle and everything. So I'm sure he's super pumped, fellow Englishman. So just really great job getting him in here in the first place. And it's kind of funny. I don't want to derail too much, but we talked about Stings, right? And his injury. And we didn't actually end up getting him because of it. But Westwood also had an injury, and we took a risk on him. Granted, it was for a lot less money, and we talked about that. You could take a gamble when it's just a couple million, but when you get to 10 million, you can't take quite the risk. But we took a risk on Westwood. He had a very serious and probably could have ended a lot of people's careers, but we got him. It's worked out. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, he even mentioned that in the press release with the announcement of that. Like, I think he was quoted as saying like, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with his feelings for this team and this community too. Is like they took a risk on him when they didn't know how he was going to recover from that injury, and really worked out. But and I think what you're saying earlier too, David, is like, I think he's a great ambassador for this team, both locally here in the community. Like if you want somebody to be the face of the team in Charlotte, I don't think you can find a better person right now than Westwood. And also, to your point, in England or even kind of outside of the U.S. when it comes to players and things like that, he can be a great ambassador for what we're doing here and what we're trying to build and the culture around it and getting some of those players that maybe you're like, I don't know if I'd go to MLS, like to kind of be the ambassador there. So I think he's a great person to be that face of the organization.
Especially if they have a family, if that player has a family, I think that's been key because I know Westwood has and his family has really, really loved Charlotte. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge selling point.
Yeah.
Now I'm just imagining if you're Ashley Westwood and you're trying to convince someone from England to come overseas to play here, where's the one place you take him in Charlotte? Be like, this is what's going to sell it to him. Is it like Discovery Place? Is it the Whitewater Center? Is it Cookout? Like where is Ashley Westwood going to take someone to make and close a deal?
Well, he'd probably say golf course.
That's probably true. That's true. Probably.
So
really nice.
But you got Discovery Place. You got Carowinds, man. You got all types of stuff, man. It doesn't rain every day like it does in England.
I've got one word for you: corn dog.
Corn dog.
Isn't that 2 words? And they're like, no. Let me take you to Cookout.
No, let me take you to the county fair real quick, and we're gonna have ourselves this. So that, or let me take you to the Coca-Cola 600. Let me tell you.
Oh boy,
there you go.
Yeah, that'll scare some players away. I'm sure. I love racing, but man, if that's your first experience with Charlotte, that is a wild ride. All right, we're talking like too much about other sports in this podcast. That's all right.
Sorry.
All right, back to Russell Varner. What worries you most down the home stretch? What gives you the most confidence? I'll actually call on somebody this time. I'm going to start with David.
So what worries me most down this home stretch is that we have not really won a game since Austin, and well, if you count like what is it called, Leagues Cup, right? I guess you have some draws in there too. But like, what worries me a little bit is that we're kind of in a funk right now, in terms of not getting 3 points, especially at home. We've gotten some points on the road, we've gotten some things like that, but um, the past month or two, we haven't really scored much, and we haven't really won much at home. And I think I don't want that to carry over towards the back half of this or the remainder of the year. Because like if we finish where we're at now, we're six. We are going to get a home game for a playoff, but it'd be really nice to be able to have some momentum going into the playoffs potentially in this space, right? So my fear is that kind of continuing. Now, what gives me the most confidence is that we've got all the pieces we need right now to be successful and to maintain being sixth or better. So I think we've got the potential to do that. So I'm excited. That's in the back of my head creeping up a little bit is like, okay, what's been our recent form at home and how can we get this off our back?
Yeah, and I just want to make one point. We didn't win the Austin match. We drew that
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
Our
It's been a
last
while.
our last win was July 13th.
Yeah.
Our last win at home was June 19th. We've only scored, if I'm looking at this correctly, 1 goal since we scored the 2 at Austin. So,
Yeah, so that's what's in the back of my head a little bit just recently, but like I'm not going to be the pessimistic person I kind of naturally am. So I'm gonna say we got all the right pieces here that we can finish the season strong. So
I mostly want to read that because I don't think I realized that's how bad the recent form was. Like in my head, it wasn't that bad, and then I actually looked at the recent matches, and I was like, oh yeah, it's been a minute. So anyway, Matt, what are your thoughts?
What worries me is that we just dropped 5 points at home back to back. We could have gained a lot of positions and solidified some things. So now you have to make those up on the road, and you have Orlando right behind us, and now you have to play them on the road, and we basically have to beat them to keep them at bay. So we've got to make up those 5 points on the road somewhere. So that worries me. What gives me confidence is, we've had a little bit of a break. These guys have been able to practice with each other. The new guys getting more acclimated, and not having to do that as we're playing. So I'm hopeful that we can make it happen. We can start scoring. I think our defense is gonna keep being solid, so we're gonna be in games. So we've just got to, make the most of our opportunities. But I think we could do it. I think we could do it. We've been a little lucky this year, and especially like not last weekend, but the weekend before last, we had some results go our way, which really, really helped us because we could have really, really been screwed if things would have went differently. So we got a little bit of help, so that's great. So now it's just time to take care of business. There's no more excuses. They've had plenty enough time to get acclimated. It's go time, and you got to do it on the road. You got to take on Montreal, who we'll talk about. I don't think we've ever beat there, so that's a concern. And then you got to take on Orlando. So, but you just got to go on the road and get some points now.
Yep. All right, Spencer Coop, do you still think we are in contention for a home playoff match, or should we be getting more concerned about our lack of scoring? Those feel like two very different questions, but I'll let you take it first, Matt.
I still think we finish. I keep saying fifth, sixth. I'm thinking fifth. I think that's where I said that at the very beginning of the year, and I've kind of stuck with that all season long. I think we are a fifth place team, and I am okay with that. I'm not saying I'm okay with mediocrity or whatever, but that gets you in the playoffs, and then you have a chance. I just think we are progressing as a franchise. I'm okay this year being fifth. Next year we'll improve, and then fighting for top 3, things like that. Home playoff, I'm not sure, but I'm hopeful.
Well, the current lineup, you get a home playoff game if you finish 6 or better, right? I mean, because it's a series of 3. You just don't have home field advantage per se, right? So
Right.
I guess like to answer Coop's question, yeah, I still think we are because I think we finished 6 or higher. I think we're good. Am I concerned about the lack of scoring? Yeah, I think that's what we just kind of talk about that. That could be the red herring a little bit that kind of keeps us from moving higher. So
yeah. All right, let's keep moving through this. Matt Nolan asked the question I feel like we just touched on a little bit. So anything additionally you want to add here, but I'll throw out the question. Does not getting those 6 points at home, like Matt referenced a second ago, that just passed, make our battle for fourth too steep? Or do the struggles of the New York teams lately keep it in play? So I guess the short version of this question is there still a spot shot for fourth? I know realistically we're saying fifth or sixth is probably where you expect us to go. Is fourth even still in the cards to get that actually kind of hosting a home series? David?
Is it technically still in grasp? Yes, but I think it is probably too steep just with our form and tiebreakers, etc., against Red Bull. But the thing that concerns me most is just looking at the table right now. We are 1 point ahead of Orlando and 1 point behind New York City. So that 5th, 6th, and 7th spot. And I think we play Montreal, then Orlando. Like these next 2 weeks are super, 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 super important for us to get points on the road, and we've got to do it. And I know Swift said some things fell our way the past few weeks, but we could have separated ourselves very easily. The past 2 weeks, and we failed to do so, unfortunately.
Against Red Bull, we could have gained some ground there, and then Atlanta, who's not very good this season, and you're at home, so just a big missed opportunity. Both those games, if you draw Red Bull, okay, because Red Bull they're pretty solid this year. They're 5 points ahead of us, so I don't know. It's getting a little dicey, but it's the MLS. Teams get hot and cold, so I still think fifth is kind of like right where we'll land.
All right. Moving away from the one more team specific question, then we'll move away from some of the team specific stuff. So Greg Fenwick, I just love this question. We're not even outside of summer yet. As you look ahead to the winter transfer window, like we've barely even gotten these guys unpacked from the summer transfer window, and already like, all right, winter, what do we need? What do you feel like our biggest areas to upgrade? David, you want to start on this one?
The coach? No, I'm just joking. I'm totally joking. So no. So I mean, if I had to say hypotheticals based off of current state, roster build, etc., I would say 9. That consistent 9 would be really nice. Maybe left wing. I don't know. Depends on how Pep plays out the next few games. Could be looking for that, that attacking mid again, or it could be solidified. So it just really depends. So, but I would say out of all things considered, a consistent 9 would be nice.
Yeah. Matt?
I think when Greg asks a question, he needs to have tone in there. Because I don't know if he's like...
Remember when Twitter, like people used to have like a sarcasm symbol? Like I think, wasn't it like if you put the carrot on something that was like, at least that was a Charlotte Twitter thing we used to do. It was like, that was the sarcasm marker. I need a Greg sarcasm marker.
Twitter.
Yeah.
I can't tell if he's trying to like troll us here, or you just never know with Greg.
I'm leaning into the trolling, but I'm still going to ask it as a serious question.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need, like I said, a couple more games to kind of see how Swiderski's going to play out, because that would be the obvious answer. We still need to figure that out. But I feel like, we haven't seen all of our players play yet. And, Pep's only played, a game and a half. So, like, I just need more. I need more data. Tim Ream, like, what's going to happen with Bill Tuiloma? Do we need another center back? What is our left and right back situation looking like? Are we going to have some departures?
Sell Milanda? Yeah.
Well, God, I hope we don't sell Milanda. I'd like to keep Milanda one more year, but I mean, those are some of the things that we'll have to think about. So I cannot answer this question at all yet, just because I need like 4 or 5 more games before I can even think about.
I've got a funny response for Greg Fenwick, and he'll appreciate this since if he is asking this as a silly question or not. The real priority for Greg here is that we should re-sign Enzo Capetti in the winter window. So there you go, Greg. I know he'll get a real kick out of that answer. So there you go.
Hashtag bring back Enzo. All right. Okay. Now we're really moving to the non-Charlotte specific stuff. Kate Kosterski, international duty, love it or hate it? Asking this as someone who watched two of her players go down with injuries while on international duty.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah. So Matt, I'll throw that one over to you.
Not great for Arsenal fans. That's what
Yeah.
Kate's an Arsenal fan. So yeah, it sucks. But here's the thing. Like, it depends on if you like international games or not. And players, are they, how prideful are they to play for their country? Like, I feel like me personally, it would be the ultimate honor. And I think when you ask most players, it's kind of like the ultimate honor. So yeah, you're going to play for your national team. You're going to get hurt. You can get hurt at practice. People get hurt in warm-ups. It just happens sometimes, but I think it's magnified when, like, oh, they got hurt on international duty if they wouldn't have played that friendly, blah, blah, blah. Like,
right.
You could step out on the sidewalk and roll your ankle and then you're done. Like, so, I mean, I don't buy in. I really don't buy into it. Things happen. If it were me, I'd want to play for my country and represent. Sure. So it just sucks. Of course, because, especially Odegaard, Martin Odegaard for Arsenal is one of, my favorite player, an amazing player, one of the best players, I think, for Arsenal. And now I don't know how long he's going to be out for. So that just sucks. Yeah. And they're playing Tottenham this coming weekend. So not good timing.
Not great. Yeah, not great. David?
No, I agree with Swift from that perspective. From a player's perspective, they're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
I may be in the camp, and maybe I don't know. Don't shoot the messenger here. I think we are starting to dilute the international.
Who are you messaging? Who are you messaging for?
I don't know. I mean, like, I know, but like, I think we're diluting the international games a little bit too much because, like, why is there an international break last week? Like, what?
Yes.
Like why do I need to have Labor Day weekend when NFL's kicking off and college football kicking off a random U.S. men's national team game in Cleveland, whatever, I mean, like, against New Zealand? Like, why? Like,
well,
why?
You take that break. So say other countries are playing in a tournament. And so everybody's on break. So then you schedule friendlies, because everybody's on that break. So it gives you an opportunity to assess your player pool. Because if you look at U.S. men's lineup tonight, it's a lot of like, oh, who's that person? Oh, this is new. Oh, they don't usually play together. So there's some of that. But to your point, maybe it's a little too much. But I do think, like, there are like qualifiers going on. There's tournaments going on, and so, like, all the international teams are taking a break anyway, so you should just schedule a game. So
no, and I get that, and I guess it was just for me, like, it's just like you just had Copa, you just had Euros, you just had all this stuff happening. Why do we need to have a friendly against Mexico and Costa Rica in the past 30 days? Or I mean, like, just we just did Copa. Like, do you really? And this is fresh off the news of U.S. men's national team getting a new coach. But like, whatever. I could be the minority here, but I think it's getting a little too diluted.
No, I see what you're saying, but there's still, like,
I get both sides of it.
All the countries are on break, and so, like, you have, like, mandatory qualifiers for Euros or World Cup or whatever the case is. So, like, you may not be involved. Like, the U.S. is not, of course, not involved in the Euros, but, like, you're going to play a friendly because everybody's on break. And again, you have to assess your talent pool. So I see what you're saying. Maybe there's too many tournaments. Maybe there's just too much going on, and they need to back that off. Or
maybe that's what I mean.
Not play as many regular season games. Like, give these men and women some breaks, right? Because they're just constantly going, and that could cut down on some of the injuries because they're just playing basically all year round. There's not a huge break anymore.
That's kind of where I was going. To agree with you, Dave. I think there's too many things now, right? It's not just Euros, it's not just Copa, it's not just Gold Cup, it's, all the Nations League things. I mean, there's so many other random kind of tournaments that we're doing on top of all of the random club tournaments that we're doing and adding. So like I just feel like there's so many non-league things, and yeah, it's one, it's just got to be wearing down players so bad to be, like you said, Matt, playing essentially year round. And even when there are breaks in your club schedule, you're playing God only knows what else. So it's just a lot. But I agree with you there. It does start to kind of like dilute, like, what is this, a friendly? Are we playing in some random tournament I haven't heard of? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Then you get the overreactions of, oh my God, we just drew against New Zealand. And then it's just, like all that stuff. So,
I'm not even going to look at U.S. men's national team Twitter tonight at all. I'm just not going to even look at it.
It's a smart move. All right. We got two more. We're going to power through. Paul Hagen. Revs coach Caleb Porter just got his fine handed down for criticizing the officiating. Does the league go too far or not far enough with fining individuals for being critical of referees? Matt, you did a fist pump, so I'm going to call on you because you have a thought.
I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm so glad that Paul asked this question. So I think that it should be illegal and journalists should be fined for asking questions about refereeing. I think journalists should be banned from asking. Hold on. So let me before you how silly does that sound?
Corey, a former journalist, is like, hold on a second.
I did that for a reason, Corey.
You're gotcha.
How silly is that? So why does the journalist get to ask that question and the coach cannot answer it? And that's my point. It's so stupid, and like, they shouldn't even be allowed to ask the question then, because they want to ask the question because it's a valid question to ask, right? And so hey, how'd you feel about that red card? I can't say anything. I cannot say anything about it. So yeah, I'm like, so why even?
I'm just here so I don't get fined,
So why doesn't MLS like fine the journalist, or like, hey, if you ask that question, you're no longer allowed to ask questions anymore? It's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life, that a coach cannot, especially right after. And I love how like, and journalists are just doing their job. It's like at the heat of the moment, they like stick a microphone. Hey, how'd you feel about losing on that really, really controversial call at the end? I can't say anything. I'm going to go into the locker room and put my head through a wall. I'll see you later. Like, it's just so stupid that they're fining coaches for telling their opinion about how the game went. Yes. And the thing is like, if that many coaches are having that many issues, there's probably a issue with your referees. I don't know. Maybe you need to assess that. Maybe you this is what I think should happen. This is what I want to happen. Like I said, I have a lot of thoughts. Sorry. I think that referees should start being fined. If they're missing that many calls, if they're having that many issues, they should be fined, or maybe they should not be allowed to referee certain games. Get less and less games.
I do, and this is where I need my seat neighbor Nate to chime in. But I believe there is some kind of, like in other leagues, you hear this with NFL too, like there is some kind of grading and all that scale that does determine what and how many matches you get to referee. Like I think, like just like when you always hear with the NFL, like the ones that get the ref the playoff games are the ones that had the highest grades throughout the regular season, right? Like that kind of thing. So there is some assessment going on, but I do fully agree with you that like I don't think you should be I don't think you should not be allowed to criticize a referee. I said that in a really double negative way. You should be allowed to criticize the referee. Let me say it the right way. As long as you're not doing anything else that like breaks any other kind of rule of like, being nasty about a referee or like bringing in some personal stuff.
Calling them a name. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but just saying like, just pointing out that like there were several atrocious calls in a match or whatever the situation was, like, you should be able to have that opinion and not be,
So what kills me So what kills me is the league, and a lot of leagues do this. They make it mandatory for the coach and certain players to do interviews. Like
Mhm.
they make it mandatory, and you get in trouble if you don't do interviews.
Yep.
So you're forcing them to do interviews. The journalists are doing their job and asking the question that everybody wants to know, and then the coach or the player can't say what they really want to say, and you're going to fine them. And like a lot of MLS players and probably some coaches don't make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And so like why even have the press conference? Just let them
Yeah.
just don't even do it.
And on the flip side, and frankly, I honestly don't know how MLS does this. So if one of y'all know, tell me, or we can figure out later. But like in other leagues, I know that you, in general, don't get a chance to interview officials when you're a journalist, but they will sometimes make like one official available to one journalist who can go and ask like one question, and that has to be like all they can do. And so they're like, it's so tightly, because like, fine, if you don't want the coaches, being able to say it, like we should be able to interview someone from the officiating, even if it's not the on-field official, interviewing someone to be able to say like, hey, what about that call?
Well, the NFL kind of has that, right? During broadcast, they have I'm blanking on his name.
Mike Pereira.
Yeah, so like
former
he does
referee.
soccer too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, he's in the booth with them a lot of times, and they'll ask them like, why did they call that? And like he kind of explains it. But like, here's the thing: I think referees need to be paid more. I think you would get better quality referees. They should be paid a lot more. But I like your idea, Corey, that like they should still be held. They should be held responsible for the decisions that they made. They should be able to explain it. And even if they say, hey, I missed it on the field, I have now looked on it, I made a mistake, I think people could still be like, hey, I get it. But like, you just never hear anything else
No,
about
they
it.
won't do that. They won't do that.
And it's just like, but like you're gonna find a coach for being mad and having a natural emotion about the game and losing because of a controversial call. They're just not allowed to talk about it. It's silly to me.
Yeah. No, agreed. I will say there is I believe I'm pulling it up now. I believe, yeah, again, this is something that Nate showed me before, and I haven't watched it super closely, but there is a Instagram account for pro referees where they will sometimes go back and analyze calls from the previous week and like point out why they made the call occasionally. Like even something as simple as that on a regular basis, like just giving the explanation. Like, because, and it could be that they have a legitimate reasons for what they did. And once you explain, you're like, oh, okay, I didn't really see it that way. That makes a little more sense. Or they could be like, yeah, we missed that on the field. Like, this is a really hard job. We don't see 100% of the things, it's on us. Like we see it now, but like in the moment, I didn't see that, or I saw it a different way. And that's just what it, and we couldn't review it. And that's just kind of what it is. But not even allowing them or asking them to, answer to it or just give an explanation or anything, I think is and then saying that we can't or a coach can't criticize it is really tough. David, I feel like we've been talking a whole lot. I don't know if you want to.
You're good. You guys said everything I was going to say. So like, the only thing I was just going to say, it'd be interesting because Wilfred Nancy even criticized the league, I think this past week during this international break, because Columbus Crew was playing. Both their starter and backup keepers were on international duty. So they had their third string goalie in who got a red card. So then they had to play a positional player in the keeper. And he came out and said, we actually petitioned to the league to let us have an extra roster spot to be able to bring a temporary goalie in for this one game as a backup for this exact reason if something happened. And the league said no. So, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, well, you're making us look bad. You can't say that, and it's just double entendre. Yeah.
Well, they're assholes because they played during the international break. So it's their fault because they're stupid and they played during the international break. And they're like, hey, you're a dumb league and you're making us play during the international break. Can we have an extra player? No. And don't say anything bad about it either, asshole. Like, we'll fine you. Like, just that's there. Like I said, there's some things about the league that I don't like, and this is one of these things.
Looking forward to the email where we get fined for criticizing the league.
God, I would love to get sued.
Don Garber, Mid-City Soccer Show. Stop saying bad things. We'll
All
take
right.
away your Manscaped ad.
Yeah, seriously. um, last question from the listeners. It's a very big change of pace here to something a little more non-soccer related.
It's very
From Michael
serious, man.
Gallimore, apple pie or peach cobbler? David.
So I'm glad you asked me this as a fat guy here. I feel like I could be an expert in this topic. So, if you asked me this probably like 25 years ago as a younger kid, I would have said apple pie because I'm gonna be like, that's safe, that's easy. But like growing up now, and then I don't know if you guys know this, living in South Carolina and being a proud South Carolinian now, they are one of the biggest exporters of peaches in the United States, more so than the peach state of of Georgia.
In Georgia.
And I live next to where they do the peach festival in Gilbert, South Carolina. And I went there, and it's so many peaches, so many things, and a peach cobbler is to die for. Like a really good one, like in a Dutch oven, or if you want to put in a skillet, whatever it is, cast iron, and you get the crunchy pieces of whatever the batter, and then you've got the hot peach, and it's just like a scoop of vanilla ice cream in it.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll take an apple pie too, but at this point in my age, I'm going to say peach cobbler for sure.
Yep. Matt?
It's a tough one. This is a really good question. I think I'm going to lean more towards peach cobbler too. I'm glad you threw out the stat about peaches too. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
South
Well,
Carolina.
there's a big old peach water tower in Gaffney that looks like a big butt. It's
I think you got close to the mic as you said that.
I think South Carolina's one. I want to say, and then it might be California and then Georgia, or it might be Georgia and California.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, but yeah, I think peach cobbler. Yeah,
per capita, South Carolina is the most for sure. It's
so also a misleading stat because per capita in South Carolina. Anyway,
it's get out of here. I'm not trying to make it.
I think Gessler may have just made that part up, but
I did. It's okay.
No, peach cobbler.
It sounded smart. It's fine.
It did. I like it. Peach cobbler, hands down. Peach season's the best season. Like they're just the best. And anything with peaches at this time of the year, I will absolutely eat. And peach cobbler is just the most amazing thing. So we have.
I've got
real quick.
The top 4 states.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's hear it.
South Carolina, then California. You would never guess what number 3 is.
Florida.
Nope.
It's gonna be some like non-southern state. Vermont.
New Jersey.
Oh,
then Georgia, and then randomly Idaho is number 5. So, yeah.
New Jersey?
New Jersey is number 3. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I have a lot of questions. But yeah, so we have family down in South Carolina. My wife has family down in South Carolina. So this time of year, like whenever like we or my wife's mom or anybody's going down there, it's like on the way back, you get a box of peaches at whatever farm we pass by. Yeah. Get a box, we split that, and then we eat that until it's gone. Then we make a reason to go back to South Carolina to
get a bushel of peaches with a bag of bull peanuts, and you'll be ready to go.
And also bull peanuts too. Oh man, now you're speaking my language. Here we go.
Ooh, sounds good to me.
All right,
that's the question, Michael.
Yeah, no, it's great. That was a good place to end. That was a good palate cleanser from yelling about referees. Hopefully Garber likes peaches and he forgets about us yelling about the referees and the league and doesn't send us a fine letter.
Right.
Real quick before we sign off here, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about it or talking about it. We've touched on it a little bit already, but since the last match was Atlanta, and we kind of touched on this, and I feel like it was especially a disappointing loss given the situation and just a rivalry game, obviously, but also Atlanta's not very good this year. We were at home. We need the points and just did not get at all what we needed in that match. Any major thoughts or takeaways or things you want to talk about from that? Again, we're not going to break down the whole thing, just any kind of like headline stuff that jumped out to you about that match.
Go ahead, Swift, and I'll go.
If not, I have something.
Yeah, I just think that was a good example of just how stagnant we are going forward, and just how our momentum dies sometimes when it gets out, sometimes to the wings, and we've had that problem in the past too with when Uzwiak was here too. It would get played out to the wings, and everything would just stall. And I still think it just kind of shows that we're not moving well as a team. I think I know what you're going to talk about, Corey, so I'll let you handle that. But yeah, it wasn't good showing. It was disappointing, dropped points. But again, I think I'm always an optimistic person. I'm just hoping some of this is just a matter of getting some of these new guys acclimated and getting used to the squad.
Yeah, the only point I was going to make real quick, sorry, David, I'll
You're
pass it over
good.
to you, just
Yeah,
but
you're
since
good.
Matt teed me up a little bit, is my frustration watching it from the stands and, kind of looking at what we're doing is we're down a goal late and really are needing to push to get something out of this match. And we took out all 4 attacking players at one point. And I can't remember the exact timing of everything. I was trying to pull it up real quickly. There we go.
78th and 80th minute. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we took everybody out. I mean, it was Swiderski was out, Vargas was out, Biel was out, Bada was out, and like, not to knock the players coming in behind him, like, what do we expect to get out of all 4 of them being on the bench? Like, I just didn't see the logic in that. Now, taking out 1 or 2 to bring in someone with fresh legs, just to put a little pressure on the defense, putting in a Patrick to, like you said, change the way we're playing in the attack. Like, there's a lot of legitimate things to do. It just felt like toward the end there, when I'm looking at the field and I'm looking at the players we have in the attack, and I'm like, there's no way this group is scoring a goal. Like, not that the starters were doing all that good before then, but they at least, I felt like, had some moments. And then Patrick did have some, actually had some nice open headers that should have gone in. But I don't know. It just, toward the end of the match, they're looking at the attacking talent we had on the field. I was like, why? What is this meant to accomplish? I don't expect y'all to have the answers, but that was my frustration and a frustrating night.
Well, that kind of tees up what I was going to say, because my takeaway and biggest frustration was just the lack of chances and shots. So we had 12 shots that game, and it says, I mean, compared to, Atlanta almost doubled what we had in terms of shot production. And does Atlanta have on paper that much more of an attacking team than we do? And looking at what you just said, Corey, but like I forgot, like we saw Swiderski out at the 56th minute of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? Like, maybe it wasn't working, whatever it is, but then you sub him out, and then you're going to bring on Junior Urso to help spark 20 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes of attack. Like, no, that's not going to.
Yeah, and then we took Vargas and Abada out in the 78th and Biel in the 80th. So like we took 3. I don't know. It just, if like last 10 minutes
we
playing
took out
with
all 3 of our DPs and said, "Hey, good luck."
And I know we do that some, and I get that to a degree. Again, like there's reasons that we take out those DPs later in the matches, like in moments. But I feel like seeing all four of those players come off in the late stages of a 1-goal match was really frustrating. When we don't have like obvious, like, oh yeah, we're bringing this person on because they can really do this thing that we really need right now.
Agreed.
I wonder if it was a little bit of maybe Brant not having his best night, getting him off the field, and then trying to get some fresh legs with some speed later in the game. But I agree, like taking Abada off, Swiderski coming out as early as he did. No one played well. So
no.
and Brad Guzan look good again, and that's the sad thing about it.
That's a problem. There's way too many Guzan chants beside me in the stands.
Yeah, with Swiderski, it could be a little bit of Dean getting frustrated and saying, "All right, you had a half. Now you had the first 10 minutes. It's just not working. I don't like your work rate." It could. Who knows what it could have been. And then you throw on Patrick because they're competing against each other, and maybe he's trying to galvanize Patrick. Maybe he's trying to send a signal to Swiderski, like, none of your spots are safe. So it could have been a little bit of that. But yeah, like taking Swiderski, Abada, Vargas, you're like, okay, who's scoring now? Like, what's happening?
And to your point, I can make little arguments about specific players. Like, absolutely. Like, I think you're right about Swiderski. Like, I think there's definitely arguments about specific players individually. It's like there's a reason that person came out. It's just the combo of that. It's like, all right, who's scoring the goal? Like, what are you expecting to come with this? All right. Anyway, I didn't want to linger on Atlanta too long. I had personally wanted to ask one thing, and so I figured I'd ask you all the question. But we are looking ahead. We have, like we've talked about a couple times, we have a big week coming up. We've got Montreal away, then Orlando away, and a midweek match. So let's talk about Montreal. I'll be there. I'll say that first. I will be one of probably 20 people probably from Charlotte up in Montreal watching the match. So excited about that. It should be a great time. I've heard it's a great city, so we're gonna enjoy that. So I'll be there. But yeah, any thoughts as we look ahead to that match on Saturday?
Well, I hope we can look forward to more attacking and more shot creation and goals. I mean, personally speaking, especially if you're going all the way up there.
I know, right?
So that's what I'm hoping. I'm looking for. I think maybe Swift, you know this, but is Patterson gonna get some minutes? You think? Or is he gonna? You think get on a game day roster finally, or what?
We'll see.
Oh,
it's.
I was say, Matt, you tease us a little bit with some Gianni news and things like that. So what are you thinking about as far as the roster in this match?
I don't know. It's Tuesday now. We'll know more. Probably no more Thursday.
Oh,
got it.
Man.
So make sure you listen to Soccer and Coffee is what he's saying. So
you're pulling a Zoran on us. Like we're clearly, we know you have information. We're clearly trying to ask you a question. You're just like, nope.
Man, so now we can kind of talk about this a little bit. By the way, so we knew Patterson was going to be signed. Like we knew this was a thing before Zoran came on, and we were hoping that we could just get him to say it. And it was okay if he did say it. We kind of got the go ahead. Zoran would not go for it though. We were trying to get him to talk about it. He just was not going to say it.
So if you remember these moments where like Matt's really trying to ask a question and Zoran's like acting like he has no idea what he's talking about. It was knowing the backstory was amazing in the background. But yeah, that was a nice little moment. So all right, how about
what are you looking forward to most, Corey, up there? Are you going to do anything fun in Montreal outside of going to the game?
So we are I mean, we don't have really super in-depth plans. We're going to be there for like a long weekend. We'll come back on Monday. Never been there before. Never been to Canada before. So just excited to kind of go to a new city. We've got like a bike tour lined up to just kind of see all the highlights and do all that. Hopefully eat some good food. We're actually I would like to eat poutine. Yeah, definitely. So so that'll be good. No, we just kind of want to explore. We're actually we're not flying directly into Montreal. We're going to fly into Vermont and kind of drive up there. Ooh. So like kind of nice little see another part of the country they've never been to before, make a weekend out of it. So yeah, we're just excited to go up there. The match will be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a small group, but a fun group. So get up there, hopefully go to their supporters invited us to the supporters tailgate. So we'll see if we can get over there and hang out. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting there, having a good time. Hopefully, like David said, we have some nice attacking play and have a fun match to watch. But the way I looked at kind of the away tickets versus season tickets was like less about the match and more about the city. Like, I can pick a match in a way that I want to go to because I want to see the match. Like, let's look at this calendar and be like, what's a cool city that we can have a long weekend in and have a really good time? And so we had a few options in Montreal is what won out. So we're just pumped to get up there and check out. And the weather, last I checked, looked amazing. So I'm very excited about that too.
So if we score, I expect to see a shirtless Corey jumping up and down in the stands, throwing poutine up in the air, and just be great. So.
And if that's happening, what you will not see is my wife standing beside me because she'll be like, "No, I'm not dealing with that." It'll be a good time. We're excited. Yeah. All right, you want to do score predictions real fast?
Yeah, let's do it.
And then get out of here. All right, David, score.
2-1. 2-1, Charlotte. I'm going to say Pep scores his first goal and Patrick scores a goal.
Interesting. Matt?
I'm going to say 1-0. And I have a couple of notes. Like, we need to high press exploit defensive gaps and fast counterattacking. And I kind of alluded to that earlier with maybe some personnel changes. That's how we can beat Montreal is fast counterattacks. So
there's your subliminal answer there, Corey. There you go.
no, I don't know. And like I said, like things change and it's a good problem to have. And depending how the week goes, but that's what we need to focus on. That's what Montreal is not great at defensively. They're just not really good at all. So we got to create opportunities. And I think high pressing. Now I know we're on the road, but high press, get the ball, turn the ball over, take your chances. I think we win 1-0.
4-0.
Oh, wow.
Dang!
Let's go.
Wow.
I'm ready to celebrate. I want to have a party in Montreal. No, 2 for Swiderski.
God, I hope
2 for Swiderski, 2 for Vargas. All 4 assisted by BL. Let's just dispel all the worries about this attack.
There you go.
And go win MLS Cup.
There you go.
The end.
People would lose their mind if we won 4-0 and BL had 4 assists.
That would be
he'd break Ashley Westwood's record that he just set this year with 3 in a game.
Yeah,
he'll be do it.
I mean, if I had the dream result from that match, that's what I'm going for. Is those things?
If that happens, Corey, if we win 4-0, are you going to get a tattoo? I think that might be the stipulation.
No, not only win 4-0, all the criteria. This is a huge parlay.
Yeah.
We have to win 4-0. 2 of them have to be Swiderski, 2 of them have to be Vargas, and all 4 have to be officially assisted by BL.
Officially, it can't be a hockey assist.
No hockey assists.
Wow, come on. Okay,
we're talking about permanent ink. Okay.
do we get to pick what it is if that happens?
Absolutely not.
Corn dog. Yes.
You gotta get. You can get the corn dog and the soccer mug thing. Yeah, let's do that.
There you go. I do really like that logo. I really do like that
logo.
There you go.
I do too.
All right. We'll decide on thing and placement if this ridiculous thing actually happens.
This is a long ass episode, by the way.
This was a long episode, so I'm trying to wrap us up and also get out of.
Like, yes, I know. I'm trying to wrap us up.
I'm also trying to get out of getting a tattoo. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. It's good to be back. Hopefully now that summer's over and school is back in session and life is back to more routines and Matt's not gallivanting down to the beach and letting his soccer team go to crap. We will be back to our normal schedule.
I'm back focused now. It's all about getting to the playoffs. Gotta make that playoff
next week.
Sorry.
I say all that, then it's like we have a midweek game next week, which always kind of throws up the recording schedule. But we'll be back at some point next week. Always look out for Soccer and Coffee too. Throughout the week on Twitter and all that good stuff. But thanks for listening and hope for a big week for Charlotte FC next week, and we'll see y'all next time.